All right, let's take a look at quadratic equations. Okay, so these can seem complicated. We're going to go over a few examples, hopefully simplify it for you a little bit. Okay, so here's our first equation. It says x squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0. Okay, so with a quadratic equation, which is what this is we always want to see everything on the left side equals 0. So that's the first thing we're looking for. Okay, so in this case, they've already done that for us, so we're good to go there. But in some other examples, we'll have to get it set up so that it equals 0. Okay, so what you're going to have here is two sets of parentheses, right? And when you multiply them together, the answer needs to equal 0. Okay, so we'll have an x here and an x here. Okay, and then we're going to have a number here and a number here, where when we multiply it out, it equals that. Okay, so we have two things to look at. These two numbers are going to have to, when we multiply them together, be a product of 15, meaning when you multiply them together, we get 15. And when you add up these two numbers together, it's going to have to result in a negative 8. Okay, so with 15, there's really only two ways. Here's the ways we can get to 15. 1 times 15 equals 15, right? But when you add 1 and 15 together, you get 16, and we need to get negative 8. Okay, so that one's no good. 3 times 5 equals 15, right? But when we add 3 and 5 together, we get 8. We need negative 8. Okay, so 5 and 3 would be the same thing, right? 5 times 3 instead of 3 times 5. We're looking at that. 5 times 3 equals 15. But again, 5 plus 3 is 8, so that doesn't work. Okay, we only have one option left, which is what if we made them both negative, right? Negative 3 times negative 5 equals 15. Remembering that when you multiply two negatives together, that gives us a positive. And negative 3 plus negative 5 equals negative 8. Okay, so this is the one we want. Okay, and so if we look at that, then what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in these two numbers up here. X minus 3, x minus 5. Okay, let's get rid of this. There's some room to write some stuff out. If adding these up to negative 8 was confusing, remember, like with negatives, if we have a number line, okay, like if you have, here's 0, here's negative 3, there's negative 8. Okay, so we start at negative 3. If negative 3 minus 5 means we go this way, less than 5 gets us to negative 8. So negative 3 minus 5 would be negative 8. Okay, so here's our formula now, right? And then let's distribute this out and make sure it works, right? That gets us this, right? So when you're multiplying, we go like this times this, x times x, x squared, yes? Okay, then this times this, x times negative 5, right? That's negative 5x. Still with me, right? Negative 3 times x minus 3x. Negative 3 times negative 5 plus 15 equals 0. Okay, and then we can combine like terms, right? We have x squared still by itself. Negative 5x minus 3x, negative 8x, plus 15 equals 0. Okay, so what we did works, yes? Okay, now when you're given an answer choice, we've done all the hard work here, is what you're looking for is what number does x have to be so that in this parentheses we get a 0, right? And if you have a 0 here, it doesn't even matter what's over here. 0 times anything is 0, and so that would be the answer choice. So here, if we put x equals 3, 3 minus 3 is 0, So your answer solution is going to be 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, and 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0. Right? So you'll have, when you're looking at your test, you're going to have 4 answer choices, and all of them are going to be something like this, where you have like x equals 3 comma 5, x equals 4 comma 7, or whatever, right? So this is the correct answer choice. If you plug in either of these two numbers into this equation up here, we will be left with 0. Okay, and that's how we do it. If you want proof, okay, so let's say we took 3, right? So if we plugged in 3 to this original equation up here, then we would have 3 squared minus 8 times 3 plus 15, right? So 3 squared is 9, minus 8 times 3 is 24, plus 15, okay? 9 minus 24 is negative 15, plus 15 equals 0, right? You would get the same thing if you use 5, right? So that just proves that when we plug in 3 to this, we end up with 0. Kind of seems like a long explanation when you first hear it. You have to really hear that long explanation so it all makes sense. And I'm sure it still could seem confusing, which is why we're going to do another one. Okay, what happens with this? We have x squared equals 12 minus x. Okay, so if you remember, we get everything over here on the left side to equal 0, and then we'll solve it just like we just did the previous one. Okay, so subtract 12, add x, right? So there's nothing left over here. That's going to cancel out everything, right? And then we'll do the same over here. Subtract 12, add x, okay? So that will look like x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. Okay. Now, if you can remember how we set this up previously, then we have like these two parentheses equals 0. And on the left part of each, we just have an x. Okay. Now, we have this number, negative 12, right? And so we need the two numbers. They're going to go here to multiply to negative 12 and add up to 1, right? Because x, I could just as easily have a 1 here, my ugly 1. 1x and x are exactly the same, right? So we need to figure out, when we multiply numbers, what can we multiply that gets negative 12 and adds to 1, okay? So if it's negative, that means one's going to be negative, one's going to be positive, okay? So what if it was negative 12 times 1, that equals negative 12, but negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11, so that's no good, okay? What about, if we're looking at, what if it was 6 and 2? So what if it was negative 6 times 2, that equals negative 12, okay? Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4, so closer, but still no good. And then our others would be like negative 4 and 3. Negative 4 times 3 equals negative 12. Negative 4 plus 3 equals negative 1. So we're getting closer, but we need it to actually equal 1, right? So that should tell us, well, what about 4 and negative 3? That equals negative 12. 4 plus negative 3 is 1, so there's our answer, right? That's what we're going to want to put in here on 4 and negative 3, so that means 4 is a positive, negative 3, negative. Just try and get a little more room to work with. Okay. Eventually, like, that stuff gets really easy, but take your time when you're trying to figure out which ones multiply to this answer but add up to that. Okay, so x plus 4, so let's make sure we did it right, right? So that equals x squared, x times x is x squared, x times negative 3, negative 3x, 4 times x, 4x, so plus 4x, 4 times negative 3, negative 12. Okay, so we'll combine them. X squared, negative 3x, plus 4x, plus x, minus 12, equals 0. Right, that's what we had right there. Same thing. Okay, so we set it up right. Okay. Whoops, erased too much. We had x plus 4 times x minus 3. Okay, so now all that's left equals 0. Okay, all that's left is to plug in, right? So for this one, to get this one to equal 0, negative 4. Negative 4 plus 4 equals 0, which means the equation will equal 0. Okay. Okay, negative 4 is a good answer. And then what's the other answer? 3. Right, because 3 minus 3 is 0. That would be our solution. X equals negative 4 and x equals 3. Okay. Okay, we're going to get 2 more still. Right, this is probably our longest video. 4x squared equals 64. Okay, so on this one, all we have to do right now here is just get it down to x squared. Right, so this one's quite a bit simpler. Divide by 4. That's a 16. Okay. 64 divided by 4 is 16. X squared equals 16, right? It seems like if you're comfortable with the square roots, right? So now we gotta square root this guy on both sides, right? And x equals square root of 16. Try to remember when you see something like this, so you know that square root of 16, it equals 4, but it can also equal negative 4, right? So your solution is gonna be, right, negative 4 times negative 4 is 16, right? So that's an important one to remember, that it's both 4 and negative 4.